Welcome to Football Today TV. These is your home for updated football news. So feel free to share your opinions and remember to subscribe as we continue to grow our family. Manchester City have secured their place in the 2026 Carabao Cup final, where they will face Arsenal at Wembley Stadium on March 22nd. It should be a big occasion, with two of England's top teams meeting for one of the domestic trophies. Yet for City manager Pep Guardiola, one unexpected issue has become a major talking point ahead of the final. The question of whether his new signing Marc Guehi can actually play in the match. Guehi, a central defender who joined Manchester City in January from Crystal Palace, was unable to take part in City's semi-final second-leg win over Newcastle United. The reason is a rule in the Carabao Cup competition that says a player must be registered before a certain stage of the tournament in order to play later rounds, including the final itself. Because Guehi joined after the first leg of the semi-final was already completed, he was not eligible to feature in that game. Under normal circumstances, this would be the end of the story. Cup competitions always have eligibility rules, and teams plan their signings around those dates so that new players can feature. But Guardiola has spoken out publicly about the situation, expressing his frustration and saying he believes the rule is unfair given how much money Manchester City spent to bring Guehi to the club. In press conferences and post-match interviews, Guardiola has made it clear he wants Marc Guehi available for the Carabao Cup final and is hoping the club can convince the Carabao Cup organizers, the English Football League, EFL, to make a rule change or grant an exception. Hopefully we can convince the Carabao Cup officials that Marc can play in this final, Guardiola said, pointing out how difficult he finds it to understand why a player the club has just signed cannot play. The rule in question is fairly specific. It was altered at the start of the season so that players can represent two clubs in the competition in the same campaign, but only under certain conditions. If a player is signed after the first leg of a semi-final, he typically becomes ineligible for the rest of the tournament, including the final. This is to prevent teams from bringing in players solely to influence a competition late in the season. Ironically, the rule has produced an unusual situation. Marc Guehi actually scored a dramatic late equalizer against Arsenal in the quarter-final, while still playing for Crystal Palace, his former club. That goal forced a penalty shootout and helped his former side push the game into a big moment. But now, having joined Manchester City, he won't be able to face Arsenal in the final unless a change is made to the rules. Guardiola admitted in interviews that he does not expect the rule to be changed permanently, but he and Manchester City are willing to try and make a case for it. He said the club will write a letter to the EFL explaining why Guehi should be allowed to play. It is difficult to understand that the club makes a big investment to take one player. He belongs to us, and I do not understand why he cannot play in the final, Guardiola explained. Guardiola's frustration over the rule is not just about one game. It reflects a broader frustration with how strict competition rules can sometimes clash with the realities of modern football, especially in a January transfer window where clubs make major investments to strengthen their squads. While some rules are designed to keep the competitions fair, managers often feel they can work against the interests of teams and fans when situations like this arise. It's worth noting that another Manchester City signing, Antoine Semenyo, can play in the final. He joined City from Bournemouth before the first leg of the semi-final against Newcastle, meaning he met the registration requirements and was eligible to participate. This contrast in eligibility between Semenyo and Guehi has only added to Guardiola's puzzlement and his desire to challenge the rule. Most clubs participating in cup competitions are careful to register players early enough to avoid these problems. Rules about player eligibility are nothing new, and they exist in many tournaments around the world. But because the rule was tweaked recently, this is one of the first high-profile occasions where it has had a direct impact on a final lineup for a major domestic cup. Manchester City reached the Carabao Cup final with a very strong performance in their semi-final tie against Newcastle. The second leg at the Etihad Stadium saw City win 3-1 on the night and finish 5-1 on aggregate, setting up the final showdown with Arsenal at Wembley on March 22nd. Omar Marmoush scored twice, and Tijani Reinders added a third, showcasing City's attacking depth and tactical strength. While reaching the final was clearly a positive moment for City, Guardiola's focus quickly shifted to the question of Guéhi's eligibility. For the manager, having all his best players available for a major final is not just about tactics. It's about respect for the investment and planning that goes into building a squad. Many fans and pundits have weighed in on the debate around the rule. Some feel the rule is fair and should remain intact to prevent loopholes that could be exploited by wealthy clubs. They argue that rules about player registration protect the integrity of a competition by ensuring teams cannot effectively enter late signings to influence a cup run after the competition is already underway. Others, including some Manchester City supporters, feel the rule is outdated and should be re-examined. They point out that if a player is fully registered with a club and eligible in all other competitions, it seems odd that he would be forbidden from participating in a cup final simply because of the timing of his transfer. This debate highlights the tension between tradition and modern expectations in football. For Arsenal, City's opponents in the final, this news is likely to be welcome. Arsenal have had a strong season, leading the Premier League and showing impressive form across competitions. Facing Manchester City in a cup final is always a major challenge. But doing so knowing that City might be without a key defender could influence tactical decisions and preparations. Still, when the Carabao Cup final arrives at Wembley Stadium on March 22nd, it promises to be a high-stakes encounter regardless of who plays. This competition has become an important part of the English football calendar, offering clubs a chance at silverware early in the year and often setting the tone for the remainder of the season. Pep Guardiola, one of the most respected managers in the world, has won the Carabao Cup multiple times before with Manchester City. His desire to have all his squad available reflects the competitive nature of elite football, where every advantage counts and every player's contribution can make a difference in a final. As it stands, the EFL is yet to announce whether they will consider Manchester City's request for a rule change or special dispensation for Marc Guehi. Most football authorities are cautious about changing rules mid-season, but Guardiola and his club will make their appeal in the hope that logic and fairness prevail. Whether Guehi will actually be allowed to play in the final remains uncertain, but his story adds a fascinating subplot to what is already shaping up to be a memorable Carabao Cup final. Ultimately, fans of both Manchester City and Arsenal will be watching developments closely as the days count down to March 22nd.